Hey guys, and welcome back to TGSF1, where today we're continuing F101, the series dedicated to explaining some of the jargon, rules and general points of interest from Formula 1 that you might hear the teams, commentators and pundits talking about over a race weekend. Last week we looked at what was track evolution, and today we are looking at the most common penalties that are dished out on a Sunday for race violations. Now, as we know, Formula 1 is a very high-octane, extremely tense and very dangerous sport. And for these reasons, Formula 1 and the FIA have a set of rules and regulations that they expect teams and drivers to adhere to, especially in race conditions, to make sure that the race occurs as fairly as possible, but also as safely as possible too. Anyone bending or breaking these rules to achieve an advantage during the race, whether on purpose or accidentally, can be given a penalty during the course of that race. Penalties can be imposed on drivers for all sorts of offences, from starting before the lights go out, speeding in the pit lane, causing an accident, blocking unfairly, driving dangerously, or ignoring flags of any colour. Penalties are dished out with the exact intention of penalising drivers, damaging their overall time and thus potentially damaging their race position and their finishing position, and affecting the amount of points that they do or don't score come the end of the race, harming their World Drivers' Championship and their Constructors' Championship points. So what are those most common penalties? First of all, we have the 5 and 10 second time penalties. These are probably some of the most flexible ones. A driver can serve them next time they come into the pit, or if they don't need to pit or we're extremely close to the end of the race, then the 5 or 10 seconds will be added to their time come the end of the race. Come the end of their time classification, you plus that 5 seconds or 10 seconds, depending on which penalty it was they got. If a driver gets this penalty during the race before they've made a pit stop, or they're planning on making a pit stop further on in the race, the mechanics can still deliver their usual pit stop or tyre change or adjustment to the car, but the car must remain static for the time duration of 5 or 10 seconds before any of the mechanics then touch the car and start working on it. Next, we have the drive-through penalty. So the drive-through penalty requires that a driver enter the pit lane, drive all the way through the pit lane at a speed limit, and exit without taking a pit stop. So these are normally imposed for offences such as curb hopping, chicanes, ignoring yellow flags, and cutting corners. And of course, that means that the time that they're going through the pit very slowly at pit speed is adding on and slowing down from their usual lap time, which is much, much quicker, and therefore they probably will come out behind some of the people they're battling with on track. Next, we have the StopGo penalty. So the 10-second StopGo penalty requires a driver enter the pit lane, stop in his pit box for 10 seconds, and then exit again, without any mechanics working on the car, changing tyres or anything like that. Even having contact with the car is not allowed during the stop-go penalty. So this is generally imposed for more serious offences such as jump starts, pit lane speeding, ignoring blue flags, and unflagged blocking. This 10-second pause with no work on the car is one of the most damaging penalties because it adds roughly 30 seconds to a driver's race time. For both the last two penalties, the drive-through and the stop-go penalty, a driver has to complete that penalty within 2 laps of being given the penalty. So they get given the penalty on lap 13, they have until the end of lap 15 to then fulfill that penalty. The exception being if a safety car is deployed before the driver serves the penalty, they're not allowed to serve the penalty until the safety car comes back in, because of course under safety car conditions, cars in general on the track are going much slower, and therefore it's not really a true punishment. If they incur that penalty with the last 5 laps of the race, they don't need to pit at all, but then 20 seconds will be added to the total race time in case of a drive-through penalty, and 30 in the case of the stop-go penalty. And finally, on a Sunday, the most severe is the black flag. This can be used for ignoring penalties or technical regulations of any sport, and it basically signifies the driver has been disqualified from the race. And therefore the result of that driver and the result of that car will not count towards the championship points from that weekend. And if the violation that has been committed is serious, they might even be banned for not just the race that they are racing on that given Sunday, but even subsequent races later in the year. So those are some of the most common penalties you will see on a race day Sunday. You might also notice that before the race starts, A driver could have what is called a grid penalty, and they start lower down than where they qualified on a Saturday. This is a slightly different type of penalty that can be awarded because of something that happened in a previous session in qualifying, free practice, or even a previous race. But what I will do is link to an awesome video from Chamber in the description to explain what grid pace penalties are and how they get awarded. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something, especially if you're new to Formula 1. Please like, comment and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you on the next one.